If I've got a couple of questions that I've noted down for this. If all atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons, how does their arrangement make the difference between healthy soil minerals and depleted soil?
Well, we could go forever on this one, Stephen, because basically, every element is just made up of a proton, a neutron in the nucleus, and an electron spinning around the outside. And the element is merely determined by the number of protons in the element, which tells you whether it's carbon, copper, like carbon has 6 protons. So, so what we're looking at, and it has an atomic number of 12, means 6 protons, 6 neutrons, but it can change. And so these are the things that we need to be aware of. Is like, this is just what determines an element, is like the number of protons inside the middle of an element. Like, I mean, they're tiny. I haven't seen one lately, except a conglomeration of them.
Just people as a collection.
Yeah. So it's really important, to understand what it's made of. But really, it's just an energetic form come together to give you a mineral in the soil that is required for plant growth. And we'll go to some of the numbers later on to see how infinitesimal some of them are and how enormous others are in their requirement in the soil.
Well, why should farmers care about the complexity of this right now? Because, someone's listening to this out on the farm and they might be thinking, all right, yeah, I get it. Everything's made of atoms and protons, neutrons and electrons. Where is this affecting my farm right now?
Okay, so the complexity of it. So the single cell bacteria or whatever, cyanobacteria, it's a plant and it's a photosynthesizing bacteria.
Yeah.
That's the original plant form or biological life on the planet. And basically that's what we're built of.
Yeah.
Okay. And so inside of that, it's got 64 minerals and subatomic particles to make up a DNA sequence. And then it's got 12 tissue salts, which is the major minerals that actually have a function in the cell function. And then it has all these trace elements that have other functions inside of those functions.
Okay.
Now, they are the ones that photosynthesize, bring the carbon in the soil. They actually create the soil if they're functioning properly. And then they create they create the nutritive available products for the plant growth from there. If they don't go through their process, you're going to spend lots of money throwing other stuff on. Now, if you give them the right atoms or minerals, like in the soil for them to work, then they'll work for you for nothing.
But you're specifically talking about cyanobacteria, right?
Yeah, but the rest of it flows from that. If you don't look after them, you might as well just shoot yourself in the foot because you're just going to be buying from a bag, the fertilizer company, and you haven't fulfilled the genetic sequence of the plant that grew from that and the animal that grew from the plant, nor in ourselves as well.
So how much is cyanobacteria an important building block for the plant and the animal in terms of where does it sit in the chain of events that lead us to ultimate great health?
It's right at the start. And what is not generally known is that cyanobacteria are the greatest carbon exchange on the planet, and they live in the ocean.
Right.
Okay, they take more carbon out of the atmosphere than any other life form, Amazon forest, everything, just by photosynthesizing in the ocean.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the ocean, there's 98 minerals in the ocean. So there's all the forms of what they need for a genetic sequence and mineral process to create a healthy cyanobacteria. If you can bring them on the land, which they were there all along, if you can create an environment that allows them to go to work, well, then you've got free fertilizer.
Okay. All right. Well, what's wrong with this statement or this idea? Why don't we just grab ocean-based products and chuck it on the land?
Well, we've got to get the minerals in order on the land so that they are in a form and the quantity so that cyanobacteria can go, cool, I can work on that. So what we're looking at soils is like we look at these different atoms. Like if we've got too many aluminium atoms, the cyanobacteria will die.
Right.
And so we see this in soil tests, but this is like where you just look at an aluminium going, it's an...
Sorry, it's kind of dawning on me. So just too much of anything is also a really big problem. So you can't just take my simplistic thought of, let's just get a bunch of this product and dump it on the land because it is so untailored
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why when you're doing these soil tests and everything, well, what we're doing and really delving into the nutritional value in the soil, what the minerals are available, how do we look in the plant forms and plant herbage tests and that sort of stuff, we need to see all of these numbers and go, yeah, we're short of this, we're short of that, because they're limiting factors.
But if you put a bunch of too much stuff on the land, I'm sure I get like aluminium's really toxic and stuff, but well, what if you put a bunch of trace minerals and a variety of abundant minerals on the land and you've overdone it? How's that really a problem? Because it'll get used later, right?
Well, not necessarily, because if it's in a toxic quantity, well, then the biology won't function. So these are why it's really important to get it in a
So even supposedly good stuff can really hamper activity.
Absolutely.
That's a bit of a mind opener for me, at least.
Well, it's accuracy. It's like just because it's good doesn't mean more's better.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, most people in agriculture will know that if you put the molybdenum on, it's great. Makes clover nodulate and brilliant nitrogen. But if you put too much on, it's a disaster. And I'm only talking grams per hectare when they say too much. Like 50 to 60 grams a hectare can be too much.
Right, and this really speaks to the topic of the appropriate absorption rate as well, right?
Absolutely. And so that's what I'm saying is that, there is a biological process in the soil that reacts to how the environment that's there and the productive capacity. So it's really important to get these atoms in the soil in the particular format so that biology will survive. And this is where I get really mad about how science has said, oh, that's all greeny woo-woo shit. You talk about fungi species and all that. That's got nothing to do with it. And I say, you try and live on this planet without fungi and bacteria.
Yeah, good luck. It's surprisingly important. And mycelium and all the connective stuff is something that I'm coming to learn about is incredibly important. Ewan, can I just get you to tell me why you've written that at the bottom of the slide? The particles that make up an atom are made up of even smaller subatomic particles, because where are we going with subatomic?
Well, this is the step I want to take you one step back from the protons, neutrons, and electrons that make up an atom, is the subatomic particles have a charge as well.
Okay.
And these subatomic particles can make up protons, neutrons, and electrons, and they call them quarks and subquarks, and it's like, oh, well, whatever, I don't need to know this stuff. But there is a really important factor in this in regard to some work from a guy called Walter Russell in the importance of these subatomic particles and their charged particles and the effect it has on DNA. I mean, you got to look at how fine these tiny little particles are in the charge and how they align themselves. So we'll look at that in the next podcast. I think we're doing on the genetic sequence. And so this is the platform that I need to just go, let's get up to here before we can go to the next part.